SABC News. The African Perspective.
Look at your top stories this hour. Malawi president-elect to take oath of office and the global Sumud flotilla under the spotlight. Your latest news. Greetings to our listeners. Malawi's president-elect Peter Mutharika is set to take oath of office on Saturday alongside Vice President-elect Jane Ansah. The former head of state staged a strong comeback in last month's election, securing 56.8% of the vote against incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera's 33%. The government says several African leaders are expected to attend the inauguration ceremony. The Malawi president-elect also outlined the task ahead.
The challenges before us are real. Our economy must recover. Food must be available for everyone. Jobs must be created. Our healthcare and education systems must be strengthened. Infrastructure must be improved. And above all, we must rebuild trust in the public institutions.
Zambia's High Commissioner-designate to South Africa, Grace Mutombo, has reaffirmed Zambia's commitment to supporting international peace and security. Speaking in Pretoria, Mutombo praised South Africa's leadership on matters of continental and global security. She also congratulated South Africa on assuming the presidency of the G20 from December 2024 to November 2025, a milestone she described as a source of pride not only for South Africa but for the entire African continent.
Your Excellency, Zambia recognizes South Africa's key role on matters affecting continental and international security. I therefore reaffirm Zambia's unwavering commitment to supporting global efforts aimed at achieving international security and sustained peace. I further wish to extend our warmest congratulations to the Republic of South Africa for assuming the presidency of the G20 for the period beginning December 2024 to November 2025.
South Africa's African National Congress Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says the party will release its local government barometer to measure progress on the manifesto commitments in due course. The ANC councillors gathered for a roll call meeting in Johannesburg last month to address service delivery issues and prepare for the 2026 local government elections. Mbalula says the ANC remains committed to improving local governance and restoring public trust. He was briefing the media on the outcome of the ANC's National Working Committee.
The ANC will embark on an unannounced visits across the country to see firsthand the work being done to ensure service delivery in our communities. These visits will prioritize engagements with our people, will meet with communities first, listen to their concerns directly, and only thereafter will we engage councillors and leadership structures in those areas.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has issued a call for the immediate release of South African nationals detained by Israeli forces. The group is part of the global Sumud flotilla, a 44-ship humanitarian convoy en route to Gaza. The flotilla was intercepted in an attempt to deliver aid to the besieged region. In a social media post, Israel's foreign ministry announced that the detained crew members would be deported to a European country, though the destination has not yet been disclosed. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says South Africa remains committed to international solidarity.
As you know, we don't have much presence on the ground in Israel, which was necessitated by concerns of safety for our staff there. However, through our mission in Jordan, we are working on determining their safety, their health, as well as providing consular services so that we secure their release. It's still early to say now as to what the process will unfold, how the process rather will unfold, but we're making every effort to ensure that we secure the release.
Meanwhile, the global Sumud flotilla says Israel has continued to use starvation of civilians as a weapon of war against Palestinians by intercepting a flotilla trying to carry aid to Gaza. The flotilla transporting medicine and food to Gaza consists of more than 40 civilian boats with about 500 parliamentarians, lawyers and activists. The flotilla is the most high-profile symbol of opposition to Israel's blockade of Gaza. The South African representative of the Global Summit Flotilla, Sunny Morgan, explains.
All of the activists were abducted or kidnapped in international waters, and this is a war crime in itself. It's a humanitarian mission carrying food, medicine, toys, that kind of stuff. Definitely, absolutely nothing to do with any accusation that the Israelis might make. This was an illegal act purely driven by their need to stop humanitarian aid from reaching the starving Palestinians. This is a war crime, using food as a weapon and starvation.
Recapping on your top stories, Malawi's president-elect Peter Mutharika is set to take oath of office on Saturday alongside Vice President-elect Jane Ansah. Channel Africa News, I'm Oneli Tsinsi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Rwanda announces a long-term sponsorship deal with the Los Angeles Rams as well as the LA Clippers, while Emirates strengthens its association with Real Madrid by becoming principal sponsor of its basketball team. I'll tell you details at the bottom of the hour.
It is a very good afternoon to you, Kenya. Good afternoon, Senegal, Eritrea, Botswana, Egypt. Good afternoon, Africa. Welcome to Africa in Business on Channel Africa. I'm Thami Ngubeni. This is where you get the African perspective. It's where we meet to look at the latest in news, sport and business. Just a reminder that our lines are continuously open to you. We look forward to hearing your views, your suggestions and your comments on the latest business stories that we bring to you. On X, Instagram and YouTube, you'll find us at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook, we are at Channel Africa.
Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
This afternoon, we'll be taking a look at the G20 as we bring you our weekly feature with Ashraf Garda and SAFM. The Parliament of the Republic of South Africa is hosting the G20 Parliamentary Speakers Summit. We'll be focusing on that today, as well as our much-anticipated C-Suite feature, where we host Michelle Jennings, the former CEO of Sanlam Group Risk, current CEO of Glue. That and a whole lot more coming up. But we begin here this afternoon. As part of Cybersecurity Awareness Month this October, South Africa's Government Communication and Information System is hosting a webinar focused on the theme Responsible Use of Digital Platforms. The session aims to raise public awareness about online safety, equipping citizens with the knowledge to protect themselves and to use digital spaces responsibly. Channel Africa's economics reporter, Innocent Samosa, has more.
The discussion is focused on online safety, identify fraudulent communication, promoting digital literacy, and highlighting the role of government and organizations in driving greater cybersecurity awareness. Brigadier Rapula Masito, head of a cybercrime investigation unit at the Directorate for Private Crime Investigation, the Hawks, with South African Police Services, outlined some of the common trends the police are encountering.
Most significant one we observe on most instances where there is a ransomware attacks, either on individuals, that is persons, but mainly on the companies and the private institutions. This is very, very common and very high. We've got several cases that we are dealing with in terms of ransomware attacks and the denial of service attacks as well. So those are the two dominant challenges that we have.
The question remains, how prevalent are these trends across South Africa?
These are very rife in South Africa. They are very rife almost everywhere because they started emerging in the last few years, but now they are becoming more and more effective, and then the threat actors are are using these things more carefully. They harvest information, and then when it is time for them to attack, they will do so.
Ompile Khwati Nkiwane from Digiti Africa shares practical tips on how people can stay safe while navigating the internet.
Don't use open Wi-Fi. This one is a big one, and I think most of us, when we're desperate and we didn't want to buy data, we've done this. We've used public Wi-Fi, which is actually, it's diabolical. That it's one of the worst ones. And of course, critical thinking, like I said, I don't know if you guys remember Gumtree. They used to have this tagline saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So just use your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. If something if something doesn't make sense, if somebody's rushing you, if there's a link you must press into to go fetch some imaginary thing, if there's like a competition that you never entered, just don't do it.
Meanwhile, the Film and Publications Board, Holisane Ramogadi, underscored the importance of digital literacy.
As much as parents give children access to the digital platforms, parents do not have an understanding or comprehend how much goes on into those devices. My colleague from DCDT did indicate the issue of digital literacy, because the increase in platforms, the messaging platforms where the perpetrators are able to access the children and the vulnerable people are growing day in, day out, and the parents do not even know where to look. So the digital literacy becomes very critical, but also raising awareness every day is a tool that will assist us to fight with this animal.
The message here is clear. Think before you click and stay safe online. For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Simos in Johannesburg.
It is exactly 12 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. Now, as part of South Africa's Transport Month, the National Association of Automobile Manufacturers of South Africa, NAMSA, is hosting the SA Auto Week. Now, this is an event that unites the automotive industry to engage in future-focused discussions, as well as to explore the latest technological advancements. Addressing South African Auto Week event, South Africa's Minister of Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Minister Parks Tau, says the country's automotive industry remains secure as they're looking at other markets to export to.
Over the past 9 months, the industry has faced some of its most challenging headwinds. As the world pivots into new energy vehicles, and the global trading environment becomes more unstable, we're seeing an increasingly competitive marketplace. This has led to a number of OEMs making difficult decisions about their future. However, I'm hopeful that if we work together, we can turn this picture around. Having returned from a recent trip in Saudi Arabia, I see potential in markets that are building auto industries where South Africa can play a significant role, particularly in the component manufacturing space, thereby stabilizing our sector and becoming a global player as our master plan dictates. It would be important to reflect on the increase of, if you like, Asian products in the South African market. I think it is important to report in this instance, and this is on the basis of recent engagements with both China and India, but also industry in both China and India,
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa and SAFM, championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability.
It has gone exactly 15 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. It's that time of the week where we bring you the latest regarding the G20. I'm Thami Ngubeni with Channel Africa, and joining me on the other side, although he's really on this side, is Ashraf Garda from the National Pulse on SAFM. Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Thank you so much. Of course, one eye on G20, the other eye on, in terms of where I am in the Eastern Cape on the issues of the automotive industry. Somehow they all will be intertwined, I'm sure about that. Let's, however, talk about a big issue today. The Parliament of South Africa is hosting the G20 Parliamentary Speakers Summit, right? So the gathering of the speakers and the presiding officers from the group of 20 member countries, they're aimed at harnessing parliamentary diplomacy. It's a key word here, parliamentary diplomacy, for the realization of global solidarity, equality and sustainability, Tommy.
Really, really key issues being discussed here. And at the opening of the summit, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Togo Didiza, called for collective leadership in tackling the aftershocks of the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't think the world has really completely recovered. We haven't yet come back to, pre-COVID settings. And some of the things that she addressed and she mentioned were issues of the rising conflict, of climate change, as well as the very troubling deepening inequalities that continue to perpetuate. And so for more on this afternoon, we're joined by the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Les Govender. Very good afternoon to you. Great to have you with us. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Tavi and Ashraf. It's good to be on your program. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Les. Let me come in first. Just so we understand it. We know what G20 is. We've been talking about it for months, right? But what about the P20 summit? What are the objectives of the P20? Why does it exist?
All right. Firstly, just to explain the P20. The P20 is basically the speakers of parliaments. The speakers of parliaments that belong to the G20 nations. So whilst we have the G20 taking place later this year, as a run-up to that, you have the speakers of parliament that will meet, because it is the speakers that actually are the engine rooms in terms of what comes out of the G20 to ensure that this dialogue that takes place now will actually find expression as we move forward. So that is why the P20 meets first, so that they feed into the G20 that will take place later.
So when we look at the role of speakers and presiding officers, we know what role they play within their own parliaments, within their own countries, but on a more global scale, what oversight role can they play within the G20 to ensure that the priorities that are set out in the working group meetings are actually achieved?
Well, if you look at the various sub-themes that we were discussing over the past 2 days, those sub-themes affect countries across the world. For example, climate change knows no geographical boundaries. All countries are affected by climate change. So the coming together of all the speakers of the different parliaments of the G20 nations enables these countries to then discuss issues that they can collectively take forward, because no country can solve the climate issue on their own. It takes collective effort, and that is why it is so important that these different countries come together, put forward ideas, share information, and be able to discuss in an environment that enables countries to speak in one voice in terms of how we take forward these issues. Because remember that different countries face different challenges when it comes to climate change, because the more advanced countries are always seen to be the ones that are the ones that are causing climate change to move at a faster pace, while the poorer countries are the ones that are most affected. And the poorer populations are more affected, and they take later to recover. So that is why countries come together in this format to be able to discuss issues.
Okay, let me come in there. We've been talking about this for weeks on end, about the link between G20 and the impact that G20 would have on the African continent, the different countries that make up the African continent. So in the same vein, right, this issue of opportunities for African parliamentarians to align to their domestic legislative agendas with this broader and regional and global development priorities, and that will benefit everybody. But so that would be the premise. But how so? Tell me how will that benefit them?
Well, there's two things here we consider. Firstly, over centuries, Africa was seen as the supplier of raw materials, critical raw materials, materials that are taken out of Africa, processed somewhere else, and then sold back to Africa. So in these sessions, what came out very clearly is that needs to stop. Countries that are in the global north that are benefiting from the critical raw materials from the African continent need to now come and establish industries on the African continent so that we create jobs for our own people. We are able to manufacture on the African soil and then supply these manufactured goods to other parts of the world. That is the one issue. The other issue is with regard to the Africa Free Trade area, agreement that we have, where we need to ensure that African continent is able to trade amongst its various countries in a safe environment. Because what we find right now with the tariffs that are being imposed upon countries across the globe, we now need to look at the South-South, area agreements so that we can then take care of ourselves and also look at other trading partners, because we don't want to be held to ransom by one country that is imposing tariffs that are making it so difficult for other countries to sustain themselves. And those tariffs are going to have negative impacts on the smaller countries across the globe. So we are saying by these kind of coming together of different nations, we are able to look at alternate trading partners so that our economies are not adversely affected to such a great extent.
Liz, I want to focus on something slightly different but related. We know that women and young people, in as much as they are represented in parliaments around the world, their representation is still uneven and really far below their share of the population in many of the countries. Now, alongside this P20 summit, there are two specific meetings that have been taking place. One is the P20 meeting of women parliamentarians, and the other is the P20 meeting of young parliamentarians. So these conferences are taking place simultaneously. Could you tell us how these two events are adding to the conversation of positioning Parliament as a key player in addressing global challenges, and why was it important to have these two subgroups?
For the first time, Tabi, we've had a youth parliament, or if you want to call it the young parliamentarian session. On Monday and Tuesday this week, the young parliamentarians met and the women parliamentarians met. Now, as I was saying, it's for the very first time that we have young parliamentarians meeting. And the thinking behind it is that we need to ensure that the voices of the youth are heard at the level where decisions are being made. And, it is often said, nothing for us without us. And that is something that we have taken very seriously as South Africa. And we ensure that we bring together young parliamentarians. And as a run-up to the P20 sessions that we had, we held the Youth Parliament in Cape Town as well as the Women's Parliament. And then we brought all of those issues into the young parliamentarians sessions that was held on Monday and Tuesday. And the views of the South African parliamentarians were then shared with the international community. And, I was so impressed by the inputs that were made by young parliamentarians, where they spoke their voices in an environment that enabled them to speak out and say exactly what is it that they want as they move forward. Because we are now engaged in a world where resources are being depleted to such an extent that these young parliamentarians are saying, what are you going to leave for us? And so that kind of dialogue came in very, very strongly. And then when we went into the women's session, that was also something where women across the world came together, and they spoke about issues of representativity, where they are not represented in the numbers that they really would like to see. But there was acknowledgement that there's been improvement over the years, where we now see more women occupying leadership roles in high levels of government, where decisions are being made on their behalf. So they are adding their voices to that. And as we close the session, the Speaker of our Parliament, the Honourable Didiza, said, there was a time when there was a glass ceiling, but now we have broken that glass ceiling, we have cleared up the glass pieces, and we have survived. So there is progress that is being made, and that came out very, very clearly in the two sessions that we held on Monday and Tuesday.
Okay, Les, that's where we're going to leave it. Appreciate your input. I think you certainly got us and the audience, listeners listening. Lots to consider, both on SFM and Channel Africa, as part of this conversation. But the key part is this here. As per the last point, what about us? And I think the what about us is just such an important driver in terms of service delivery for leaders in South Africa and around the African continent when dealing with issues of G20, or in this case P20. So, Les, Governor, much appreciate your time. The Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, thank you for your time. Thami, as always, appreciate you connecting with me as this partnership between SFM and Channel Africa. We'll do it again next week.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Ashraf Garda and the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Les Govender, as we continue focusing on the G20. November is literally just around the corner, and a lot of these summits are taking place in preparation for the main summit. Now, as far as women representation is concerned, only about 27% of women are represented in parliaments around the world. And this is per the parliamentary reports that have been put together. Only a few countries, the likes of Rwanda, Mexico, the UAE, Nicaragua and Cuba, have surpassed that 50% female representation. All of this coming out from the Interparliamentary Union IPU 2025 report. Brings us to exactly 28 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African time. This is Africa in Business. Still coming up for you today, we've got our very much anticipated C-Suite feature, where we're looking at the world of financial services. Our guest today is the former CEO of the Sanlam Group Risk, and she is currently the Chief Executive of Glue. She is Michelle Jennings.
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa, championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Hi there. Do you want to elevate your business and give it a voice in South Africa and Africa as a whole? Well, in that case, let Channel Africa make this a possibility. Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mokoenata@SABC. That's MOKOENATA@SABC. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Ukatili wa kijinsia unaharibu maisha na kutenga jamii. Hutokea nyumbani, shuleni, kazini na mara nyingi kwa ukimya. Lakini hauwezi kuendelea. Ukiona, ongea. Ikiwa unaumia, funguka, kwa sababu kutofanya lolote sio chaguo. Sikiliza vituo vyote 19 vya redio kuanzia Jumatano ya tarehe 23 Julai kwenye mijadala, ushauri, tamthilia, maonyesho ya elimu na mahojiano na wataalamu, manusura, watunga sheria na nchi nzima iliyoathirika na ukatili wa kijinsia kwenye vituo vyako pendwa vya redio. Piga simu 0800 428 ili kuripoti unyanyasaji au kupata msaada. GBV, ikomeshwe na wewe. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwenu na shirika la SABC.
African enterprise meets global opportunity. Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
It has gone exactly 4:30 p.m. Central African time as we head over now to the markets desk where Chanduko Legege is standing by with your latest market indicators.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Thami. Good afternoon. $1 is trading at 17 Rand 21 in South Africa. In Botswana, 13 Pula 20, Namibia 17 Namibian dollars 21, Zambia 23 Kwacha 86. In Kenya, the dollar is 128 shilling, 518 Ethiopia 145 birr 887, Uganda 3,000 shilling 458, Tanzania 2,000 shilling 449. $1 in Nigeria is 1,483 naira. In Egypt, the dollar is 47 Egyptian pound 83. Tunisia, 2 dinar 89. Algeria, 128 dinar 645. In Morocco, the dollar will cost you 9 dirham 06. In Angola, the dollar is 912 kwanza, while the Congolese franc is 2,607 to the US dollar. Looking at commodities, gold is $3,892, platinum at $1,585 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $64.76 a barrel. That is all from me. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
And from the latest from the sports desk with the business of sport, here is Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you so much, Thami. A very good afternoon from the sports desk. So Rwanda this week announced a long-term sponsorship deal with the Los Angeles Rams, as well as the LA Clippers, becoming the first African nation to partner with both the NFL as well as the NBA for tourism branding. So Visit Rwanda, the tourism brand of the Rwanda Development Board, will appear as the exclusive jersey patch sponsor for the LA Clippers, while the Los Angeles Rams home field will also carry its branding. According to Jean-Guy Africa, the Rwanda Development Board CEO, this engagement enables the board to export Rwanda's unrivaled natural beauty as well as extraordinary biodiversity to the people of Los Angeles, as well as the NBA and the NFL fans everywhere. So the East African nation has long pitched itself as a hub for major sporting events and a leading ecotourism destination, part of its bid to attract investors and move beyond the shadow of the 1994 genocide. So back in 2018, Rwanda became the official tourism sponsor of English football club Arsenal FC, with the Visit Rwanda logo appearing on the players' sleeves. Now, Kigali has also entered deals with other football clubs like Paris Saint-Germain and is fighting to host the Formula One race. Rwanda last week became the first African country to host the Cycling World Championships, which concluded this past Sunday. Now, Seja Valari, the Rwanda Development Board Chief Strategy and Communication Officer, elaborates more on the key aspects of this partnership.
Two key axes in the partnership or sponsorship. The first one is obvious, is Visit Rwanda, just like seen in the brand, Visit Rwanda, attracting people to come and visit and discover the beauty of this country and experience all of the landscape and every activity that you can offer to people. And the second one is the investment. And the investment is also like one of the key priority for us, because we have like that willing to have like more investment, to have like a growth for the next year, and having people who come and invest in Rwanda is also one of the achievements that you have to think about.
Valeraya also explains more on the partnership, also confirming in the process that it will be a 5-year partnership between the two entities.
So it's a 5-year partnership. So we are partner with LA Clippers, the NBA team, and we will be showcased on what they call the patch on the jersey, the Visit Rwanda patch. We will be showcased in the Intuit Dome Stadium with LEDs and different assets. We're gonna have like a lounge to host our guests, and for LRAMs, we will be showcasing what they call the Infinity screen, which is maybe the biggest screen in the stadium in the world, plus other assets like LEDs, and we're gonna have like some specific space called Visit Rwanda as well, the Visit Rwanda Lounge.
Now the English Premier League is on the verge of a significant decision regarding its profit as well as sustainability rules, a framework designed to ensure financial responsibility among clubs. Now, Richard Masters, the CEO of the Premier League, indicated in a recent statement that the league is nearing a resolution on whether to abolish these rules, which have been under a lot of scrutiny for their effectiveness as well as their impact on club operations. Now, the PSR was introduced to promote the financial health among clubs, also aiming to prevent overspending and also ensure that teams operate within their financial means. Under these regulations, clubs are allowed to report losses of up to $125 million over a 3-year period. Now, the primary objective, though, was to also curb excessive spending, especially in a league where broadcasting revenues as well as commercial deals have soared to unprecedented levels. And finally, Emirates as well as Real Madrid have announced a multi-year partnership under which Emirates becomes the official sponsor of the Spanish professional basketball team. The partnership takes effect immediately. So under the agreement, the Emirates Fly Better message will feature prominently on the team's jersey, extending its presence already seen on the men as well as the women's football team kits. Now, this new collaboration with Real Madrid's basketball team marks Emirates' debut in European basketball as the airline expands its global sports presence, also reinforcing its mission to bring fans closer to the game. It's 16:37 p.m. Central African Time. It wraps up your sports news this afternoon on Channel Africa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, give us a call on +27 11714 4459. There'll be more sporting updates tomorrow morning on Africa Rise and Shine. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Madapiri pazochitika. Madapiri pazochitika.
Boma la dziko la South Sudan alengeza kuti wachimiri kwa mtsogoleri wa dzikolo Riek Machar akuyenera kuyankha mlandu ofuna kulanda dziko wakupha komanso okonza ziwawa. Ndipo mtolankhani wathu nkummawa kwa Africa Afresa unene akuwunikirapo.
Muchikalata chomwe chinalengezedwa ndi nduna yoona zamalamulo komanso chilungamo ya dziko la South Sudan, chikalatachi chinalengeza kuti wachiwiri kwa president wa dzikolo Riek Machar apezeka ndi milandu yokupha, yofuna kuwukira boma komanso kulanda dziko ndi kuyambitsa ziwawa. Riek Machar akhala akusungidwa mokakamizidwa ku nyumba kwawo kuyambira mwezi wa Marichi chaka chino. Mwezi wa Marichiwu, asilikali omwe mbuyomu anali mgulu lomwe limagwira ntchito limodzi ndi Machar anamenyana ndi asilikali a boma a South Sudan Defense Forces SPDF mu chigawo cha White Nile dziko.
Zochitika pa nthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lolemba mpaka lachisanu ndi Madapiri.
Se é um artista em exceção que procura mostrar a sua música a um público mais vasto, ou apenas procura promover a sua música na rádio, podemos ajudá-lo a aumentar as suas hipóteses de sucesso. Envie sua música para music@channelafrica.co.za. Para tal, precisamos das seguintes informações: rótulo, código ISRC, título, artista, compositor, editor, autor, linguagem, gênero. 3. Escute sua música, trilha sonora da nossa rádio, perfeita para melhorar o seu dia. Com Channel África e a sua música, você nunca ficará entediado. Experimente o melhor da música africana na perspectiva africana.
African Enterprise meets global opportunity. Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
It is exactly 4:40 p.m. Central African Time, and in this week's C-Suite feature, we host Michelle Jennings. She's the Chief Executive of GLUE since March 2023. Jennings is a chartered accountant by trade with over 20 years of leadership experience in the financial services sector. Known for her expertise in risk management, in insurance, employee benefits and strategic planning, she has built a reputation for driving transformation and delivering sustainable growth. Under her leadership, GLUE is redefining financial services through mutuality and innovation, creating an inclusive ecosystem where financial well-being is collaborative and empowering. Her prior role as the CEO of Sanlam Group Risk highlighted her commitment to collaboration, particularly in addressing systemic challenges like affordability within the financial services industry. She joins us now. A very good afternoon to you, Michelle. Great to have you. Welcome to Africa in Business.
Thank you so much, Thami. I'm so happy to be here. It's an absolute privilege. I've told everybody that I know that I'm speaking with you today.
Awesome. Look, I'm so looking forward to it. I went into your LinkedIn page, and I tell you what, I had to just hold the tears back as I was reading your Women's Day message that you posted in the month of August, speaking about the importance of, representation, speaking about giving access to women and making sure that the financial services sector is actually accessible to all. Talk to us about where the love comes from for this particular industry. It really seems to be more than a job for you, but a passion.
I'm so happy that you picked that up, Thami, because it absolutely is. I tell people how much I really love my job because I genuinely do believe that my role is to make financial services accessible to more people. I love what I do. I have always been the person that when I do my role, I do it in such a way that I do the right thing for the brokers, the members, absolutely everybody who is a part of it. And I really want to make a difference. And I want to be remembered for that, that just really stand out from the rest to say that I've done the things the honourable way. And that's why being a part of GLUE, that is a mutual business, just fits with my values so closely and why I'm so extraordinarily happy to be in this position at the moment. But just touching quickly on that Women's Day note, it was actually following a conversation that I had with some youngsters, and I was trying to tell them what it was like back in the day when I first started, and I was very fortunate to be a relatively young executive, how things were so completely different in the boardroom compared to the way they are today. So I don't think they realize exactly what it is that they are fortunate to experience these days.
I mean, it's really great that things are changing. Earlier on, Ashraf Garda on SFM and I were talking to Les Govender regarding the summit that's currently taking place for parliamentarians. And alongside that, there is the summit for young people in parliament as well as for women in parliament. And one of the things that has been repeated over and over again is that the representation of women is increasing in really crucial spaces of leadership, not only in people's different countries, but on a global scale as well. Now, you've been described as somebody who's reshaping the future for generations to come. Can you talk to us about that? I mean, what do you believe still needs to be done in the transformation of the financial services sector?
I think the business that we're creating, to me, GLUE, is what we believe is really going to change the South African financial services landscape for the better. PPS is already a mutual that operates in the South African economy, but it's there for professionals, those with a 4-year degree or more. And we believe that this mutuality, this benefit of being the owner of a financial services business as a policyholder, should be shared with more South Africans. We should be empowering more people to be profit share millionaires. PPS itself has 12,500 millionaires that have made more than R1 million profit from having their policies and their financial services through PPS, which is a mutual business. So how can we take that to more South Africans, that more people can benefit from this mutuality?
So I want to backstack a little bit, Michelle. You are a chartered accountant. How did you find yourself entering the world of financial services? Because the truth is, or insurance specifically, because there are many other options that were open for you.
And I'm one of those people that's explored many of those options, Thami. I think I've done all sorts of different things in my career. I've been in logistics, I've been in all different types of things, retail, I've sold cell phones. I really have tried a little bit of everything. And when I found myself in financial services, it really resonated with me. Like I said, it's a place where you feel that you can make a difference, do the right thing for people and help them to do the right things for themselves. I've enjoyed my time enormously, and I enjoyed my time in employee benefits, and I'm really loving my time now back in the retail side of the business.
So let's talk about Glue a bit, and if you could unpack what it means to actually be a mutual.
So a mutual is a bit like a stokvel. It's a business that is owned by the policyholders. So every person that has a policy becomes an owner or a part owner of this business, meaning that profits of the business don't go to a couple of elite private shareholders. It goes to the people who are actually contributing to the business to make it successful, being the policyholders. So they get to share in all of the profits of the organization for all the years that they are a policyholder, meaning that they grow with it.
Are you still with us, Michelle?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I'm hoping that my signal isn't too erratic. I'm saying yes, we really want our policyholders to benefit from being the owners of this organization. We call it financial services the Ubuntu way, meaning that we all get to share in the benefits of the business.
And what were the lessons that you learned from your helm as a leader within the Sanlam group?
Gosh, I think any sort of leadership position comes with a whole lot of lessons learned. And I think over the years, I've learned that it's less about what I can do and get done, and more about what I can do for people to help them to get things done. I see my role as door opening, making sure that I remove the obstacles so that individuals can be empowered to really deliver the things that make them successful in their own careers. I think many years ago, somebody said to me once, you're very successful if you can work yourself out of a job. And I don't think I really understood what that meant until I got quite a bit older, when I realized it's actually about empowering others so that they can eventually take over, because each of us is not going to be around forever. We need to make space for the youth to come through.
You mentioned PPS as we were talking. What is the relationship between PPS and Glue, and how do the services offered differentiate?
Glue is a division of PPS, so we operate on the same license as PPS. In terms of how the business model works, it's very much the same. It is a mutual insurance business where the contributions that go into the business are there to pay claims, cover the expenses and the mandatory solvency requirements, and the benefits thereafter are allocated to each of the members and shared according to their different contributions. So as a division within PPS, we're very blessed to not only have the capital backing of such a well-established organization, but we also have the experience and the balance sheet to tap into if we really need to.
And what is your vision for Glue?
Oh, this is exciting. We see Glue as a little bit of a fintech organization. We've been very blessed to have been given the autonomy within PPS to establish this as a ring-fenced business. And they allowed us to go and select any technology that we wanted. And they're giving us the freedom to then also play around with new innovative technologies on a plug-and-play basis. So we are allowed to go and find something, bring it into the business, test it, see if it works, and keep on trying until we find something that really resonates and works for individuals or resonates with people. So I think we see this being a fintech business that grows, is totally scalable to the point that it generates enormous profits, so that policyholders really do see a massive return on their contributions that they've made to the business.
And what are your offerings? Which areas do you practice as far as insurance is concerned?
We have life insurance, and that's the area that I'm closest to. So we have life cover, critical illness cover, disability cover, but we also have an investments arm that offers investments, the same investments that go to the PPS members. We also have a short-term insurance business for car and household cover, and we've got a fiduciary services business. And seeing that we're going through Will's Month, I think this is a great opportunity for me to also just remind everybody, please do you, if you can make contact with anybody who can assist you with preparing your will, please do so. It's a very, very important factor in one's financial planning.
I kind of almost even feel redundant asking you this question, Michelle, as in, what's your biggest big for you, the ultimate vision for yourself? You've told me about the vision for Glue. What is the vision for Michelle Jennings?
Gosh, that really is a difficult one, because I'm so blessed to be in the position that I'm in, and I really love what I do. And I think if I were to say what is my absolute vision, it's to help people in our organization and people that I work with to grow and be the best versions of themselves. I want the team that I work with to absolutely love what they do. I want people to remember this time that they've worked in Glue and to say, gosh, that was such fun. That was such an enjoyable place. My values really resonated with what I learned there and what we did in that business. I just want to be the person that makes work the best place to be.
Michelle Jennings, I can say from this side of the mic that it sounds like you're leading with heart. I wish you all of the best.
Thank you so much, Thami. And that is actually one of our expressions in the business. We say we're digital, but with heart.
Oh, okay. Spot on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Lovely chatting to you, and all the best with Glue.
Thank you very much, Thami. Have an absolutely wonderful day. Thank you.
You too, ma'am. That's Michelle Jennings. She's Chief Executive at Glue. You can almost imagine how it's like being part of her team, right? With the vision and wanting to work herself out of a job. And it basically means that you've got to pour so much of yourself into others that they can be almost like an AI version of you, but better, because they'll bring a bit of themselves into it as well. Well, that's our C-Suite feature for today on Africa in Business.
Se é artista em exceção que procura mostrar a sua música a público mais vasto, ou apenas procura promover a sua música na rádio, podemos ajudá-lo a aumentar as suas hipóteses de sucesso. Envie sua música para music@channelafrica.co.za. Para tal, precisamos das seguintes informações: rótulo, código ISRC, título, artista, compositor, editor, autor, linguagem, gênero. 3. Escute sua música, trilha sonora da nossa rádio, perfeita para melhorar o seu dia. Com Channel África e a sua música, você nunca ficará entediado. Experimente o melhor da música africana na perspectiva africana.
Connecting Africa to the world. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni brings you the latest insights on Africa's economy.
It is exactly 4:52 Central African time. We'll continue focusing on the financial services sector. Now, it has been estimated that around 1.6 billion adults around the globe remain unbanked. So what does this mean? It leads to them being excluded from access to credit because they lack the formal banking or the income histories. Clayton Hayward, who's Group CEO of EFT Corporation, says fintechs can create accurate credit profiles and open access to financial services. He joins us on the line to unpack this further. A very good afternoon to you, Clayton. Welcome to Africa in Business.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the invite.
So perhaps let's start here with how the use of data, like mobile usage, the airtime purchases and utility payments, how they ensure or can ensure that the unbanked have the credit profiles that they often need but don't have.
Yeah, I think if we look at it, obviously we're in this huge world of AI now, and we have all these tools that can look at what we call alternative data. And in the past, it was almost like this catch-22 situation. If you didn't have credit, you couldn't get credit. And if you didn't have a bank account, you couldn't get credit. So it was just this repeating circle. Whereas now what we're finding is that we can create these ecosystems for small businesses and consumers where they can share other data about themselves. And that other data could be loyalty data. It could be data regarding their payment profile on utility bills. It could be the data regarding, and the one that's used a lot is how often they buy airtime. and that they've kept the same number for a long time, and that they stay in the same area for a long time. So when you start putting all those profiles together, you can start getting a pattern around what we call trustworthiness of a consumer, which then obviously relates to then a creditworthiness. And I think that's going to be one of the big step changes in Africa when we now start including this, and I think it's more than 1.6 billion people that don't have access to credit, because I think we have lots of people with mobile money accounts, we have a lot of people with bank accounts, but a lot of them don't have access to credit. So that's really what we're looking at, is in terms of how do we empower these people with providing alternative credit scores.
And it really sounds like unshackling the traditional barriers that were there in the past and finding new ways of accessing information that can then paint an accurate profile of who your eventual client or end user is going to be. Can you talk to us about other areas that fintech is using in order to really revolutionize the banking industry, making sure that these AI-driven credit models are reducing friction, but also expanding access to the financial services?
I think Africa offers so many opportunities, and mobile was one of them, and the mobile devices have become so prevalent across Africa, and that is what has allowed even this, if you want to call it, this mobile first lending capability in the market, where fintechs are able to build mobile applications that are able to harvest data on the device, that are able to get social scoring from friends and family, and make that sort of lending decision. And what we're finding is that they're working now closer with the banks, and the banks are realizing that there's this ecosystem where if they can provide the lines of credit to the fintechs are able to do the last mile and get the money to the small businesses and to the consumers that really need the money. So whether it's subsistence farmers, whether it's traders on the side of the road, they all the same. It's about how do we get them credits, how do we allow them to scale their businesses, and in the end, actually create more jobs.
Thank you so much, Clayton. We'll leave it at that for today. Some really great innovations that are making sure that underserved communities are actually now being served, and they can also be part of the global financial system and be able to have access to things like credits and credit cards and etc. So thank you for your time and your insight this afternoon.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Clayton Hayward. He's Group CEO of EFT Corporation. Takes us to exactly 4:57 Central African Time. I will say bonjour.
Bonjour Thami, bonjour à tous les auditeurs de Channel Africa. Alors tout à l'heure, c'est Vue d'Afrique. Sur Vue d'Afrique, nous parlerons de la Centrafrique. L'opposition regroupée au sein du BRDC annonce son retrait officiel du processus électoral. Et aussi au Gabon, l'opposition demande l'annulation du premier tour des élections en raison des nombreuses irrégularités. Nous parlerons aussi du Nigeria, où l'association des cadres du pétrole et du gaz naturel annonce la suspension de sa grève nationale. Merci Thami.
Merci beaucoup. Well, that's how we come to the end of this Thursday edition of Africa in Business. It really has been absolutely amazing just looking at the big developments and big stories in the world of business on the African continent. From myself, Thami Ngubeni, and our entire team from the news desk, Onele Nzinzi, economics desk, Chanduko Ligeke, sports desk, Mosibudi Makura, from our production team, producer Mabubu Loka, technical producer Catherine Malika, and on social media, Talent Butelezi and Sviso Hlope. You have yourself a splendid evening further as we hand the reins now over to the French desk.